The Galactic Council had always considered humanity a curiosity, a species that had barely scratched the surface of faster-than-light travel, wielding primitive plasma weapons while the elder races commanded graviton lances and singularity bombs. For 300 cycles, humans had been the laughingstock of the known galaxy. Their applications for military partnerships politely declined, their trade routes relegated to the outer rim territories where pirates and scavengers preyed upon the weak. Ambassador Chen stood before the council chamber, her jaw clenched as the Vexthari representative dismissed humanity's latest petition with a wave of his crystalline appendage. Your species lacks the technological sophistication to contribute meaningfully to galactic defense, he droned, his translator rendering his contempt in perfect standard. Perhaps in another millennium you might... The chamber's warning klaxons cut him off mid-sentence. Through the massive viewport, the assembled delegates watched in horror as the Krell Armada emerged from quantum space. Thousands of biomechanical vessels, each one a nightmare of chitinous armor and pulsing organic weaponry, descended upon the Council's orbital station like locusts. The Krell had been the galaxy's nightmare for eons, a hive mind dedicated to consuming and assimilating every civilization they encountered. All defense fleets engage, the Council Marshal bellowed, but everyone in that chamber knew the truth. The station's shields would hold for perhaps an hour. The nearest reinforcements were 3 hours away. They were going to die. Ambassador Chen touched her comm implant. Execute Protocol Midnight Sun. Across the viewport, space itself seemed to tear open. Not the gentle ripple of a quantum drive or the controlled fold of a warp gate, but a violent rent in reality that screamed with barely contained energy. From that wound in space emerged a vessel that made the entire council chamber fall silent. The UHNS Prometheus was impossible. It shouldn't exist. Couldn't exist according to every known law of physics the elder races had codified over millions of years. Where their ships were elegant curves and artistic sweeps, the Prometheus was a brutal wedge of purpose-built lethality. Its hull wasn't made of any known alloy but seemed to drink in the light around it, a matte black that spoke of materials science centuries beyond what humanity should possess. What is that? The Vexthari delegate whispered. Chen smiled, and there was no warmth in it. That is what happens when you tell an inventive species they're not good enough. The Prometheus didn't wait for the Krell to adapt. Its first salvo wasn't plasma or lasers or any conventional weapon. The space around 50 Krell vessels simply ceased to exist, replaced by perfectly spherical voids where matter had been excised from reality itself. Vacuum implosion weapons, theoretical devices that the Arxian Collective had spent 10,000 years failing to create. But humanity hadn't stopped there. The warship's hull rippled and what appeared to be fighter craft launched by the hundreds, except they weren't fighters. They were semi-autonomous drones, each one networked into a quantum-entangled battle swarm that thought and reacted faster than any biological mind could process. The drones moved in patterns that defied inertia, their micro-warp drives allowing instantaneous vector changes that would have liquefied any organic pilot. The Krell Armada, which had crushed a dozen civilizations, found itself outmaneuvered and outgunned by a species they'd never even bothered to scout. How? The Council Marshal demanded, turning to Chen. Your species was barely second tier. This technology, it's impossible. You made a mistake, Chen replied, watching as the Prometheus carved through the Krell fleet like a scalpel through tissue. You assumed that because we were behind, we would always be behind. You never asked why we were so desperate to join your military alliance. She pulled up a holographic display. 50 years ago, our deep space telescopes detected the Krell migration vector. We calculated that they would reach our colonies within a century. We petitioned you for help, for protection, for technology sharing. You refused. You all refused. The Vexithari delegate's crystal form had gone pale. So you developed this on your own? We had no choice, Chen said flatly. When you're facing extinction, you don't innovate incrementally, you revolutionize. We took every human scientist, every research facility, every resource we had and focused them on a single goal: survival. We didn't have the luxury of your million-year development curves. We had decades. On the viewport, the Prometheus had deployed something new. A wave of energy rippled outward, and every Krell ship it touched simply stopped. Their organic systems frozen, their hive mind connections severed by what could only be described as a neural disruptor operating on a fleet-wide scale. We developed AI that makes your computational networks look like abacuses, Chen continued. We cracked zero-point energy extraction that gives us effectively unlimited power. We created metamaterials that exist partially outside normal space-time. We built weapons that break reality itself because we couldn't afford to lose. The last Krell vessel was vaporized by a lance of compressed space-time. The entire battle had lasted 7 minutes. And you know the most terrifying part? Chen turned to face the council, and every delegate shrank back from the intensity in her eyes. The Prometheus is just the prototype. We have 12 more under construction, each one an improvement on the last. We've created defenses that make this warship look primitive. We've done in 50 years what you couldn't do in 50 million. Because we had to. The silence in the council chamber was absolute. The Vexthari delegate finally found his voice. What do you want from us now? Ambassador Chen's smile was cold and sharp. Now you're going to approve humanity's application for military partnership. You're going to grant us full council membership, and you're going to pray that we're more forgiving than you were. She gestured to the Prometheus, which hung in space like a dark promise, because the next time someone threatens this galaxy, you're going to want us on your side. And the price of our protection is respect. The vote was unanimous. Later, as the Prometheus prepared to jump back to human space, its captain sent a private transmission to Ambassador Chen. Did we scare them enough? Chen watched the council delegates scrambling to draft new treaties. More than enough, Captain. Humanity isn't going to be underestimated again. Through the viewport, the impossible warship folded space around itself and vanished, leaving behind a galaxy that had learned a critical lesson. Never mistake patience for weakness, and never underestimate the ingenuity of a species fighting for its survival. Humanity had been unleashed, and the universe would never be the same.